Hi, welcome to Rock and Metal Invasion. My name is Steve. Coming up on the show today, I'm doing my top 10 from 1989. So these are my top 10 albums that were released in 1989. Now this follows on from my top 10 albums from 1988 that I did all the way back in February, so I haven't done one of these for a while. I was always planning on doing my top 10 for 89, just taking me a while to get around to it. And of course I think I've done 85, 86, 87 as well. And I probably will go back and do some of the early 80s also at some point. But today it is top 10 for 1989, which was a fantastic year for hard rock and metal. A lot of the sort of what we now, what a lot of people now term hair metal. Hair metal was probably at its peak in popularity around 1989. And so there was so much music that sort of, I guess, fits into that sort of category that was released in 1989. And as you know, if you follow my channel, a good part of my collection is that type of music. So it's a great time to be into music, and a good percentage of my collection, of course, is from the 80s and a lot from 1989. So it took a while to work out what was going to make the top 10, and I've got quite a few honorable mentions as well. And of course, this is my top 10 right now. To be honest with you, number 5 could easily swap with number 4 on another day, and 4 could swap with 5. It's just, it was pretty tight, some of these, decisions about what I preferred more than the other. Basically, if it's in the top 10, it's one of my favorite albums. And the honorable mentions as well, all good albums also, but not everyone can make the top 10, of course. Now, also, I'm into hard rock, and what was called metal back in the 80s, but pretty much these days, a lot of these albums would just be called hard rock. So you're not going to see any thrash or death metal or speed metal or anything like that, because I wasn't really into that type of metal back in the day. I think if you follow my channel, the type of bands I was into back in the 80s, and the type of bands that will most likely feature in my top 10, but there might be some surprises as well. So some well-known bands, some lesser-known bands as well made the top 10. So anyway, let's get into it. So I'll start off, I'll do my top 10, and then I'll do my honorable mentions at the end. All right, so coming in at number 10, it's the Blue Murder album, so self-titled Blue Murder album. I went on Rock Daydream Nation's channel and with a couple of other guys and talked about this album in quite a bit of depth. We did a track by track. Go check that out if you haven't. A lot of people, of course, are a real fan of this album. It didn't probably do as well as perhaps was expected, but it's a quality album from start to finish. Some tracks for me better than others, but the good songs are really good. Riot. I actually really like Black Hearted Woman, the song that finishes up the album. That's fantastic. Blue Murder, the song Blue Murder, very good as well. It's John Sykes on guitar. He's awesome, and he actually does the vocals, and he does a fantastic job. But musicianship on this whole album is fantastic. Production by Bob Rock, also very good. So really great album. So you can imagine if this is coming in at number 10, there must be some good albums that are coming up, because this is a quality album. And like again, it's my choice. I'm sure there's some choices that are going to come up. People are going to go, how can you say that album is better than Blue Murder? Well, for me it is, but it's a great album, and it makes number 10. All right, so number 9, this might be a bit of a surprise for some people. This was not a successful album, and it probably did get thrown into the sort of the hair metal category, but it sounds quite different to a lot of the hair metal bands that were coming out. I guess it does have does sound a little bit like perhaps The Cult, but I love The Cult, and I love this band. This band is The Front, and this is their sort of self-titled album from 1989. Yeah, so like I say, it's definitely got some Cult influences on here. But just really solid album from start to finish. So many good songs. Sister Moon's probably my favourite song on here, but Fire, the song that kicks off the album, is very good. Like I say, didn't didn't have much success, but I think it's a great album, really quality album. All the songs I pretty much like on this one, and yeah, but it just didn't have a lot of success. I guess, like I say, that they didn't have the typical sort of sound that was sort of popular in 1989. But Cult was doing very well. So, but yeah, and then they did release a second album, but they changed their name. It came out in 1993, I think, and they were called Baker's Pink. I think something like that, Baker's Pink. Which is, I didn't think it's good, anywhere near as good as this. But there we go. So that's my number 9, the front. Number 8. Again, this might be a bit of a surprise for some people. Now, this is officially their third album. Their second album is very good as well. And their first album's probably my least favorite of their first 3. It's more of a traditional sort of heavy metal album. This one is number 8, Icon, and Right Between the Eyes. Big fan of this band. They actually got a new vocalist in for this album, but the quality of music is still fantastic. Like I said, I really enjoyed their second album, but this one's also very good. They got a new vocalist in. They've also got Alice Cooper guesting on a couple of the songs. But for me, Holy Man's War, which is like quite a long song, it's about 7 minutes long, is a fantastic song. Really, still love that song now. A Far Cry, also very good. They're my 2 sort of standout songs, but there's other good ones as well. Right Between the Eyes, the title track's a good one. So I'm pretty sure I've talked about this band and this album even maybe before, but it's a really good album, and that's my number 8. Right, number 7. This album, albums from this band just got reissued fairly recently, but I've always had it on vinyl, but I did pick up the reissue. I'm talking about Savatage and Gutter Ballet. So this is the reissue. Really nice job they did. This is nice gatefold and 2 LPs, and really fantastic. But what a great album this is. So they definitely, I think, really found their sound on this album. Of course, this is where they brought in Paul O'Neill, and they had started to take the sort of that 80s metal sound that they had, but then start bringing in some sort of orchestral elements, and of course, they then go on and do Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Most of Savatage is kind of a lot of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra guys are from Savatage, and again, Paul O'Neill had a lot to do with that, the producer of this album. So, and you can sort of see that the start of that idea on this album here. And of course, the next album, Streets, is like a rock opera. But for me, this is probably my favorite Savatage album, but they've got so many good ones. But especially, I love Gutter Ballet, this title track. But When the Crowds Are Gone is really good as well. She's in Love, awesome. Yeah, just for me, when this came out, I got it, pretty much at the time when it came out, and it was the first Savatage album I think I'd ever heard, and I thought it was amazing. And this is not the only Paul O'Neill production that's going to feature in the top 10. So there we go, there's a bit of a clue. So I was a bit of a fan of that guy, because I was thinking he produced this, and he also produced another album that came out in 89 that I really love. So he definitely had some skills. But great band, and excellent album. So that Gutter Ballet, that is my number 8. Okay, right, let's move on. Sorry, number 7. Number 7. So let's do a quick recap. Blue Murder, because I always lose count. 10. The Front. 9. Icon. 8. And Savatage. Number 7. All right. So number 6. It is one of my favorite bands from the 80s. They're still going strong now. They've got a very large discography of fantastic albums. Very consistent band. And number 6 is W.A.S.P and the Headless Children. Really great album. Quite different. So they've really started to mature. If you can want to ever call them W.A.S.P mature, but they're they definitely have starting to change lyrically. Taking, I mean, obviously there's still songs like Mean Man, but which is basically about Chris Holmes, but lyrically it gets a little bit more mature. Musically it's changing as well, and there's just some really good songs. I'm not a big fan of the Real Me, the Who cover that they do on here, but Rebel and FDG, which ends the album, is fantastic. I like the song Mean Man. The Heretic is actually one of the heaviest songs I think W.A.S.P has ever done. It's fantastic. Keyboards at the start, the way that builds up, fantastic. Frankie Banali's on the drums on this, and he sounds fantastic. Headless Children, the title track's also very good. Yeah, and also there's lots of songs that didn't make the album that are also really good. Almost for me, like a couple of those songs, you put those on and take maybe a couple of other songs out, it would have even been a better album and may have found its way further up my top 10. But anyway, it's number 6, W.A.S.P and the Headless Children. All right, number 5, it's going to be a band that were produced by Don Dokken, and they had a similar sound to Dokken. Terry Eloise, I think that's how you say his name. He's a vocalist. Always loved his vocals, but Don Dokken produced it. It's XYZ or XYZ as we say here in New Zealand, and their self-titled debut album from 1989. Just really great album. I mean, it's like I say, it's got some Dokken influences in here, or sound. I think if you like Dokken, you'd like this band. Some good guitar work. So it's quite heavy at times, but still melodic. Nice Day to Die is fantastic. Maggie, Take What You Can. So they're the best sort of rockers for me on this album. But Inside Out, of course, was a single, pretty good song. But I just Come On and Love Me is a good one. I can put this on from start to finish. It's pretty much all these albums in this top 10. Some songs I like more than others, but happy to put the whole album on and just listen to it, and always enjoy it. Had it since back in the day, still love it. And just a shame that this band only really had a couple of albums. They've had some other albums come out since that sort of, I think, are a bit of a mix of demos and unreleased stuff. But really, those their first 2 albums are fantastic. XYZ, that's number 5. All right, number 4. This might be a surprise to some people, but then again, I'm pretty sure I've talked about my love for this band. They got quite a few hassles back in the day for sounding like Led Zeppelin. So I think you know who I'm talking about. But I think a lot of people said that their second album, a little bit less. They were starting to sound a little bit less like Led Zeppelin. Personally, I didn't really hear it. I mean, I heard it, but I didn't think they were that much worse than some of the other bands. Almost everyone, a lot of bands anyway, put it that way, back in the 80s, were influenced by Led Zeppelin. They were a very influential band. I love Lenny Wolf and his guitar, and his vocals, his songwriting abilities as well. I just think the first album was fantastic, and number 4 is In Your Face, their second album. So probably even a better album for me than their first one. And it's very, very hard to choose, actually. Bad Image is actually my favorite album. That's, I think, their 4th album. But they're just, those first sort of 4 or 5 albums that they put out. And, they were one of the few bands still putting out albums well into the 90s. And they were pretty good too. Good quality albums. But this, of course, was the last album that had that sort of the lineup that was on the first album. So the after this album, Lenny pretty much just goes solo and brings in other guys to help him record his album. But he had the same lineup from the first album on this one. Stargazer, which is the song that finishes the album. That's one of my favorites. And then it kicks off though with Do You Like It, which is also an excellent song. Who Do You Love? The Wind. I always really liked Just Like a Wild Rose, which is a slow song, but I really like that one. But yeah, again, another one of start to finish, great songs. So yeah, that's my number 4, Kingdom Come and In Your Face. Really though, what are you doing when your band ends with Come and then you are calling your album In Your Face? I don't know quite what they were thinking there, but there we go. All right, number 3. Their first album was fantastic. And I think they even got better with their second album. So this is Tesla and The Great Radio Controversy. Just such a consistent band. Every song's good, at least good, if not great. For me, Hang Tough, I always really liked Did It For The Money. I love the way that starts off and then the big riff that kicks in. Making Magic, Party's Over, the song that ends the album. It's one of my favorite album closer songs. In fact, a few of these albums on my top 10 have great songs that finish the album. The one I was just talking about, Kingdom Come, the song that finishes off that album I talked about, Stargazer is a great one. Really good album. Such a good band. Didn't really focus too much on their image. They just put out great hard rock, and they had a bit of success with this one, of course, with Love Song, which is actually one of my least favorite songs on the album, but it was a hit for them and really gave them some success. So but really great album. So that's my number 3. Yes, number 3. All right, so we're into our top 2 now, and coming in at number 2 is a band, and like a lot of these bands, really, that or albums that are really, for those who know about them, are fan favorites, and are talked about as classic albums, even if they perhaps weren't that successful. And this is, I think, considered a bit of a classic album, even though at the time, back in the day, it wasn't hugely successful. This is the second album from Lillian Axe, so this is Love and War. This really surprised me when I heard it, because although they look like your generic sort of hair metal band, and even some of the lyrically, you might read the lyrics and think, oh yeah, okay, yeah, pretty much typical sort of stuff. It's actually, when you read the song titles, you might think that, but lyrically it's quite interesting. Musically, very, very interesting as well, but it still is that fantastic hard rock sound. It's just, again, just real consistency throughout there. Ron Taylor, I always really loved his vocals. Steve Blaze is the sort of main guy of the band, songwriter and guitar player. Really, really great band. And the next album is pretty good as well. Of course, it's their second album. The first album was actually produced by Robin Crosby from Rat. It's good, but you wouldn't have expected this kind of a quality to come after you heard their first album. Now, of course, actually for me, I heard this album before I heard their debut, so I had to go back and then listen to their debut later on. And I was like, oh, it's not as good. No, not as good as this one. Nowhere near as good, but still good. But this one's just fantastic, just great album. I actually really like their cover too of the Girl song My Number. Really loved that. I don't know if that's my favorite song now, but I remember back in the day, that was probably my favorite song off the album. But really good song. So that's my number 2, Lillian Axe and Love and War. All right, so what's number 1? I wonder if you can guess, because thinking about a bit of a clue that I gave before, and that album hasn't come up. So my number 1 album, and again, I have gone on Rock Daydream Nation and talked about this album. It's Badlands, and their self-titled album from 1989. Jackie Lee, of course, on guitar. He sounds amazing. Ray Gillen on vocals. I've talked about him and his vocals and his image and the way he performs before. Just fantastic. Songs for me that I really love. Well, there's so many. Dreams in the Dark, Winter's Call, and Devil Stomper are probably my 3 favorites, but really excellent album. Again, a little bit different too from what was coming out back in the day. Yeah, they had some sort of 70s rock influences, a little bit of blues, I suppose, but they still had that sort of and that 80s hard rock sound as well. You know, Jakey Lee had come from Ozzy Osbourne. That guitar tone that he had with Ozzy, he has still on this album as well. Just fantastic. The album after this, not as good, I didn't think, but yeah, and this is produced by, but still good, but not as good, produced by Paul O'Neill, and a little bit of songwriting, I think, contributions from him as well, but yeah, really good album. So there we go. That is my number one album from 1989. And like I said before, you know, on another day, perhaps, you know, I might have chose Lillian Axe, or maybe I might have even chose Tesla, or, you know, who knows. It does change sometimes from time to time, but I will say that that Badlands album has always been just one of my favourite albums, and just still enjoy, you know, playing it. I continue to play it and go, wow, what an amazing album. All right, so there we go. So that's my top 10 from 1989. I'll quickly go through some honourable mentions. I mean, again, like I say, you know, some of these could have easily made the top 10 on another day. Babylon AD, really solid album, this one. Didn't hear it until quite a few years after 1989, but when I did, I was like, wow, this is fantastic. Leather Wolf and Street Ready. I did hear this back in the day. Actually took a while to grow on me, but I really like the title track, Street Ready. But the whole album album as a whole has grown on me, and really like that one from start to finish. LA Guns, very consistent. You know, their first 3 or 4 albums are really good, actually. They're not. I think a lot of their songs are just good. They don't have a lot of standout songs for me, but they're a good, solid band. And this is probably one of their more successful albums. Always annoyed me though that this didn't have the song "I Want to Be Your Man." Very annoying. On vinyl, on the CD, it's on the CD, but not on the vinyl copy of the album. And it was released as a single, so that's a little bit annoying. Skid Row, of course, their debut album came out in '89. It's good, but there's some songs I'm not that fussed about. But You've Gone Wild, what a great song that was. Was Big Guns as well. So the songs that open up side 1 and 2 are probably the 2 best songs. Although, you know, even though it's been played to death, I do think 18 in Life was a great song. Definitely, it's a very good song. Yeah, there we go. I've talked about this band before, Sariah, sorry. Yeah, fantastic. And the follow-up album as well is also very good. And I've heard rumours about Sariah maybe coming out with a new album, but we'll see. Shotgun Messiah, they were in the running, but, you know, I think their next album, Second Coming's even better. Motley Crue, Dr. Feelgood. Not one of my favourite Motley Crue albums, but for me the first 3 are where it's at with Motley Crue. Yeah, and Girls, probably my least favourite of the first sort of 5 or 6 albums. But yeah, there's some good songs on here, but yeah, there's a bit of filler, I think, for me. But they had enough good songs on here to have a hit album, didn't they? And I'm sure it's probably some people who are watching is probably their favourite album from '89, or would at least be in their top 5. And yep, totally understand that. And maybe this album would be in your top 10 or 5 as well. This was very successful. The Cult, Sonic Temple. Yeah, I was very close to making my top 10. I do love The Cult. Probably very, very close, especially when you consider the front made it and they're influenced by these guys, and these guys didn't. I don't know. It's just I love Firewoman and Eddie Chow Baby. The 2 singles are fantastic, but after that, it's okay. But yeah, some good songs, but not great. So yeah, Masters of Reality. That's another album that nearly made it, because I just think it's such a brilliant album. It's such a good band. They're such a consistent band too. You know, I don't know how many albums they've put out, but all of them seem really good to me when I play them, and just enjoy playing them from start to finish. So yeah, that was definitely in the running, and again, something a bit different. Sounded a bit different to the music that was coming out in '89. Rick Rubin production on Deaf American. Yeah, and you know, he was producing and putting out some good stuff. And again, you know, it's just a little bit different, but and I didn't hear it back in the day. It took me a few years to discover this and hear it, but once I did, I loved it. And my last honourable mention, Mr. Big. It's actually a cutout. This wasn't a particularly successful album. course, the next one, Lean Into It, was. But this actually had some good songs on it. I really like Big Love, How Can You Do What You Do. Addicted to That Rush is a great way to kick off the album. Just good solid hard rock album. Just an honorable mention. Definitely was not going to make my top 10, but a good album. So there we go. So there's my honorable mentions and my top 10 from 1989. Hope you found that interesting. I'm sure there's albums that I didn't talk about that made your top 10. Let me know what they are. Let me know what you think about my ranking. And if you haven't hit that subscriber button and you enjoy this kind of content, please do so. And I'll be back soon with another episode. All right, we'll catch you later. See ya.